gains are coming in. So here you see kind of the lineup of 5500 Intel Xeon processors. You've got some basic, standard, and advanced, and pretty much your sweet spot for most applications will be here in the standard offerings. And really, we're going to talk mainly about 5530 and 5540. That's really where the sweet spot is going to come in there in the standard processor offerings. Those are the two main ones that come in your IBM standard models of Blade, HS22 Blade offerings. Another one to keep in mind, if you don't have a very high performance requirement, you're in a situation where you need the most power efficiency. The low power L5520 is a good choice there that we see a lot of people adopt when they need more of a power efficiency and don't need top end performance. Transitioning to the previous generation of Intel processors, here you can see kind of how the relative performance stacks up, and these numbers kind of got flipped a little bit, but if you look at the previous generation of Intel Xeon 5400 series, kind of the 5450, 5440, and really more than 5450 was kind of the sweet spot. This is generally what most of our customers would deploy in most general purpose servers, 3 gigahertz quad core, 80 watt 5450 part. If you look across here, how it translates, if you go straight across to the 2.66 5550, you're going to get on the order of, and I know the number's covered up there, but it's like 72% performance gain. If you go to really what I imagine the sweet spot will be, which is the 5540, 2.53 gigahertz quad core, 80 watt, you're going to get a 52% performance enhancement. So significant performance gain from one generation of processor, Intel Xeon processor, to the other. Again, due to those, not so much as you can see, clock rates actually came down. It's really the architecture changes that are enabling a lot of these performance gains. So what do those performance gains from a new generation of Intel Xeon processors really get you? Well, it's time to really look at reducing your costs by looking at consolidation of older generations of systems. And so, for example, if you have older racks, IBM did a count of, let's say we have 2005 circa 1U Intel Xeon processors, 166 two-processor looks like 1U rack servers occupying almost 4 racks full. With the Intel Xeon 5500 and the HS22, we can collapse that down to 14 blades in a single Bladecenter chassis and get the same level of performance. So you reduce your IT footprint by 95%, and you get an 11-to-1 consolidation ratio. So significant savings in maintenance on all those individual machines. Of course, any footprint costs you might have at whatever data center you're housed at. You're definitely going to save on power and cooling, which is now becoming increasingly the larger part of the physical cost structure of maintaining a data center environment. Let's say you've already invested in a Bladecenter architecture, and you invested in the Bladecenter E and the original first generation HS20 blade back in 2005. With the new HS22 and the Intel Xeon 5500 processors, you can collapse 156 HS20 blades in 12 Bladecenter chassis down to 1 Bladecenter chassis and 14 HS22 blades. And you don't even have to get a new chassis. Notice it's a Bladecenter E chassis, so IBM has protected your investment in those existing Bladecenter E chassis. You can use the new blades in those existing chassis. You do not need to upgrade your chassis. And you get the same consolidation ratio, almost 11-to-1. There are some upgrades you need to make to power supplies and management modules, which I'll get into those details in a moment. But essentially, same chassis supporting the new blades, you can collapse down to one from a huge number. Like I said, protecting your investment in the existing Bladecenter E chassis. So if you have an existing Bladecenter E chassis with older blades, you can install the new HS22s. Depending on the class of processors you get, whether it's low voltage, the standard 80 watts, or the high-performing 95 watt, there's a certain limit to the number of HS22 blades supported. If you're using your existing Bladecenter E chassis, you can upgrade that chassis, however, with the new 2,320 watt power supply, and that will support full population of HS22 blades. Like I said, common components to the Bladecenter stack across the board, across all your chassis, all your blades, and not just the hardware, but some other value-added components. Some new things coming out with this new generation of not just the HS22 blades, but some other new generations of IBM 1U and 2U servers. We now have what they're calling the integrated management module, which is a common hardware control module across all these IBM System X systems. This is what tools like your IBM Director will tie into to enable hardware control of your systems for a centralized management software. So Systems Director 6.1, taking advantage of that. The new IBM systems boot off of the new Unified Extensive Firmware Interface, UEFI, which is basically Intel's replacement for the BIOS that has been around for generations and generations, it feels like now. Supported by all your new operating system versions, and for anything that's older, it can run in a full legacy BIOS mode, fully compatible, so it can boot even your legacy operating systems as well. The UEFI gives you a much friendlier, much more powerful interface, true firmware interface, compared to what BIOS, all the limitations that BIOS has had for generations. Common hardware components, hot swap hard drives, storage controllers, gigabit Ethernet, trusted platform module, and embedded hypervisor options across the entire IBM System X line. Here's some details on the UEFI. Like I said, better user interface, easier management, more functionality compared to legacy BIOS. So really from here on out, that's going to become the standard on all new IBM x86 systems, starting with this new generation with the HS22. There you can see the OS support today, Windows 2000, as well as Linux, and prior operating systems can operate in a legacy BIOS mode. The integrated management module, it's basically this kind of integrated almost system on a chip that resides inside your server. It gives you that hardware, remote hardware control point, usually tied to IBM Director or some other management suite of software. No special drivers or anything needed. Basically replaces what used to go in the previous generations of servers, the remote supervisory adapter and some other predecessors to this. Now it's a common chip across the entire IBM System X line. Another new tool that's gotten enhanced, this used to be called kind of the server guide. It basically was a tool you got with a new server that gave you kind of a wizard interface to walk you through the initial setup of a new server. This has been significantly enhanced. It's now called the Tool Center, and it not only helps you